Hi guys, I'm Gasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times to discuss horror together. And today I'm here to talk to you about quiet horror. I know you guys told me you were interested in recommendations when it comes to quiet horror some time ago, so I decided to put this video together and mention 5 books and 5 movies that are quiet horror.
It's coffee time!
For many people, when you mention horror, they obviously think about slashers. They think about blood, they think about guts, they might think even about things like Saw, where it's more a little bit going towards the torture porn part of things, but there are so many different sides to horror. Horror doesn't always have to be loud, fast-paced, bloody, and gory. In fact, there are many great movies out there that just slowly creep into us, and some of those we are unable to forget, or some images from those movies we are unable to forget. It's more about the psychological horror messing up with your head, and a lot of people enjoy that. Me too. Sometimes I do like some blood, but other times I appreciate the slow burn and the creepiness of those movies. It's almost like you being in the woods in the middle of nowhere, and suddenly there is this fog that comes towards you, and very slowly it isolates you from everything. You're unable to see anymore, and that's when the horror kicks in. I think quiet horror is probably gonna be for people that really enjoy to read a book that starts slowly, but the moment that creepy things start happening, unsettling things start happening, you are unable to put it down. And it really is one of those subgenres of horror where you almost have this itch in your skin and you don't know what exactly it is, but you almost want to scratch yourself. And it is a very different but effective side of horror. So especially also if you guys don't love a lot of blood and gore and guts, these quiet horror recommendations are gonna be great for you. But this doesn't mean that quiet horror cannot be brutal. And some of the books and movies that I'm going to talk about are quite brutal. So, you know, some are not really for the faint of heart. Quiet horror is something that could be compared to Gothic horror. So if you like Gothic stories, quiet horror might be something that it's also for you. And now let's get to those 5 book and 5 movie recommendations. December Park by Ronald Malfi, and this is going to be great for people that love coming-of-age stories, and especially stories that are based in the 90s. We follow 15-year-old Angelo that sees a dead body for the first time, and that I think changes you. When you lose someone in your family, when somebody dies really close to you, or you see a dead body for the first time, that changes you. And it forces you to grow up and to see life very differently. It is not, however, the first death, the first body that is going to appear in town, and there are rumors of a said Piper that is coming to take the children. Very interesting enough, the other day I did my review on the movie The Piper, and now you have a book that has the same kind of vibe in a way if you want to try it. It seems the Piper has abducted several children, but they still have not been found. The rumor is that the woods are haunted and people should not get in there, but Angelo and his friends decide to go in there and investigate because they still have hopes of being able to save the children. December Park is a coming-of-age story that mostly follows Angelo as our main character, the 15-year-old. It is a book that is based in the 90s, which is always a plus for me. It is a very slow burn book, but it takes place like throughout the span of 1 full year. One of the strongest things of the book is the character development. It's really good, and you can really tell that these kids are really well described and they really feel like teenagers. Let's go to a classic, The Dead Zone by Stephen King, and I decided to mention this one because I feel like a lot of people that want to get into Stephen King are looking more to the typical books like The Shining or Carrie, maybe, I don't know, Salem's Lot perhaps is another popular one. But a lot of people don't know about some of his older books like this one. This is from 79, so it is from the beginning of his career. And a lot of people associate also Stephen King with horror like killer clowns, or, you know, superpowers like Carrie, maybe the vampires of Salem's Lot. So this is such a different type of book for Stephen King. So I also feel like it would be good for people that have never read his books and they want to get like slowly eased into his writing. It is a chunker, as most of Stephen King books are, but this is one that it is a lot more of a slow burn. A car accident puts Johnny Smith in a coma for 5 years, and when he wakes up, he realizes that when he touches people, sometimes he can see flashes of their past or their future, and this changes his life forever. These can be seen as a gift, but also as a curse. What if you see in someone's future something absolutely horrifying? Will you warn them? What if it's someone that you just met for the first time? What if it's someone you really love, and then you see something terrific about their future? So like I say, it could be a gift because you can warn them, or if you see the past of someone, you could perhaps understand more the person that they have become. But it can also be a curse because you never know what you're gonna see. So people start learning about his power and they all run to him for answers. I think a lot of us might be curious. It's always the question of, would you like to know how and when you're gonna die beforehand or not? But it is when he shakes the hand of a politician, a really ambitious politician, and he has a vision of something that could be fatal for mankind, that he starts questioning what to do. I think the story is very straightforward, and it is one of those horror books that is very accessible to a lot of types of readers. But the second part of the book can be quite politic heavy, so I guess it depends as well if you're ready to go through some of that, because obviously we're dealing with a politician and some sort of like fate that could impact the whole humankind. And so talking about politics is in this case unavoidable. In many ways, this is a book by Stephen King that is a little bit different from his other books. This is more of a psychological thriller, and there is less of the typical horror elements that you will find in his other books. And also it is a book that feels quite serious. You know, Stephen King is not always 100% serious in his themes or with his characters, and this one felt a little bit more serious. Gil Creek by Scott Thomas, and this one is about the Finch house, a house that is in a prairie in Kansas that has been abandoned for many years and that is rumored to be haunted. This abandoned house, it's going to open its doors again to very special guests, and the guests are horror authors. There are different type of horror authors that have been invited to participate in this, almost like an experiment, where they go and spend the night at the most haunted house. And so they all take the job, you know, some of them need the money, other ones might need, you know, the popularity that might come from this experiment because it's going to be recorded and all of that. And so they decide to go there, spend the night, thinking that nothing was gonna happen. But when they get there, we all know that things are not gonna go as well as they had planned. And there is something really cool about this book because it is almost like every single one of the characters is affected in a different way by this place and by whatever is in it. And there was never a dull moment in the book. It is quite intriguing, and I really enjoyed reading about all the different characters and you know, their perspective on things and the different things that happen to them. So I really recommend this one. I think it's a lot of fun, and if you are also a horror author, I think it's gonna be a lot of fun for you to read this one as well. A Headful of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. So this might be a book that it might work for some people, it might not work for others, because it is a really good example of quiet horror. It is a book that is very slow paced and where not too many things happen, but the horror and the feeling of creepiness comes from the writing and the characters. It is all about the atmosphere. It's not about cheap tricks. It's not about the jump scares. It's not about the blood and the gore. This one is a true psychological tale. The story is around a family, the Barrett family, and they are struggling financially. And then on top of that, their daughter Marjorie starts to exhibit some sort of like weird behavior, and they don't know exactly what's wrong with her. They believe she has acute schizophrenia and they don't know what to do, but then they get an offer to basically do almost like a TV show about their life as a family, their struggles, the daughter, and what she's going through. And they decide to accept it because they are really lost, they don't know what to do, and they desperately need money. So this is a family that is going to be constantly watched and monitored. And it is a creepy story about this girl that is being affected by something or someone. We don't know what's going on with her. So it's a little bit like an exorcism movie in the sense that, in The Exorcist, also Regan at the beginning, the mother didn't know what was going on with her. Was some sort of like attacks that she was getting. It was just nightmares. What was it? And then we discover that she's possessed. So this is kind of like the similar vibe. This book is going to play with your mind. You're going to think sometimes that there are supernatural things going on. Other times you're just going to believe it's just like the reality of this family. So it's one of those books that is going to really engage you to think about what's going on, and it's going to be creating a lot of tension around the psychology of the different characters. But it's definitely one of those books where everything is very slowly built, so you have to be ready for that. But as I said, it's a really good example of quiet horror. The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward, and this is another book that it's going to really engage you when it comes to the psychological part of things. It's another book where you're gonna be questioning all the time what's real, what's not. And it's one of those books that it's gonna surprise you. It has many twists and turns. When you think you have everything figured out in this book, you realize you don't know shit. And I cannot tell you too much about the actual plot of the book because I feel like it would be a spoiler. But I can tell you this is not a book, it's a quiet horror book. So it's not one of those books that is going to be full of blood and gore and all of those loud things. It's going to be like a really slow horror that is going to start creeping in, and then every time a reveal happens, you're gonna be like, what the actual hell? What is going on? And that was the beauty of this book. Is this unsettling psychological journey that it took me in that made me love this book so much. Plus, Catriona Ward has such a beautiful writing style. It follows a man named Ted and his daughter Lauren, and about this house that it is possibly haunted. We don't know. So you're following them. I think the chapters, if I remember correctly, are told from different perspectives as well. So there's different POVs if it's something that you enjoy or maybe do not enjoy, just for you to know. If you're a fan of stories that are really slow burn, that just creep slowly under your skin, this is one that you have to read. And please try not to read anything about it because there could be spoilers everywhere and it would definitely impact on your reading experience. And now it's time to go to the movies. Let's start with Pulse. After college student Taguchi commits suicide, a number of young adults living in Tokyo witness terrifying visions transferred across the internet. As more people disappear throughout the city, the internet becomes a breeding ground for malevolent spirits. We follow three stories that seem to be disconnected from each other, and these are three people that are trying to figure out where these ghostly appearances are coming from, and they're doing that behind their PCs. This is another example of a movie that is not about oozing wounds and gore and blood, but it's about the creepiness of the situation that the characters are in. Plus, it's an extraordinary apocalyptic horror narrative that explores in a very good way the destructive impact of consumption. The House of the Devil, and this one is directed by Ty West, and he has become one of my new favorites since he directed X and Pearl, and now this year we're probably gonna get Maxine to complete that movie trilogy. And this is a great example of how he brought back the classic horror stories. Desperate to make some money so she can move into a new apartment, college student Samantha takes a mysterious babysitting job. When she arrives at the house, Mr. Ullman mentions a full lunar eclipse and explains there is no child, but that Samantha will be watching his mother instead. You're going to see Samantha slowly exploring the house to realize that actually that guy is keeping a very dark secret in the house. So we're going back to the essence of horror in those black and white movies that were creepy, they were a slow burn, and we didn't need all the blood and the guts back in the day to get creeped out. This is one of those examples where it's less about the CGI and all of that. It's more about the story, about the characters. We're going back to the almost like the 80s, and I really enjoyed this movie, so I hope you do too if you decide to give it a chance. The Black Coat's Daughter is another movie that I have mentioned in videos before on my other channel, not in this one yet, but it is one of those movies that I feel like it's very underrated, and it's such a good, moody, atmospheric film, perfect for a cozy fall day in your couch. During the winter, two students are stranded in a prestigious Catholic boarding school. However, they soon realize that in order to survive, they will have to fight a sinister, unseen evil force. Now, this story is one of those classic, almost like haunted place scenarios, but instead of having like a house, you have here like a boarding school. And it is a horror that really slowly builds up. And it's a horror that comes at times unexpected. But the movie does a great job at creating tension and atmosphere, which is what really works well in quiet horror. It is very smartly paced. It is one of those movies that it really starts slowly. You don't know yet where things are going, but once the really like more unsettling parts and bits come, it really slaps you in the face, and it's very effective. So if you have not seen this one, I think this is perfect for like fall or winter. So give it a chance. Now, the last two movies that I'm gonna talk about are two movies that are quite disturbing. So let me put that already out there. So they might not be for a lot of people, but I think these next two movies are absolutely amazing, and they are a great example as well of quiet horror. The first one I'm going to talk to you about is The Lodge. I saw this movie at a film festival, didn't know what I was getting myself into. I just went, watched the movie. I don't think I even knew the plot of the movie. I just went there and I was blown away by the film. I fell in love with it. So here I am to recommend you this movie. During a family retreat to a remote winter cabin over the holidays, a father is forced to abruptly depart for work, leaving his two children in the care of his new girlfriend, Grace. Isolated and alone, a blizzard traps them inside the lodge as terrifying events summon specters from Grace's past. This movie was truly elevated by different things. I think it has the element of surprise a lot of times, unexpected things. The cinematography was stunning, bizarre a lot of moments. It was really effective as well. Plus, the acting was superb, and the psychological depths that we get to tip into when it comes especially to the character of Grace is just fantastic. So this movie is going to be for people that are ready to go on an adventure with a movie that is going to be quite disturbing. It's almost going to have you as the viewer agonizing together with the characters. The tension is like throughout the whole film. You're going to be tense in your seat, not knowing what's coming, and it's just so effective. It's also a movie that it takes place in the winter, so again, it's perfect for winter. But yeah, like I said, this is a bit more intense than the other ones that I have mentioned so far. And last but not least, we have Speak No Evil. Speak No Evil is another movie that I just saw. It was running here in the cinema. I didn't even know what it was about. I saw it was horror, and I'm like, I'm gonna go watch it. And the way that movie turned out to be, and the way I left the cinema that day, it's the feeling that I have every time I watch an amazing, incredible movie. And so I'm here to recommend it to you, but this movie is going to absolutely wreck you, destroy you. So just keep in mind that this is a very hard movie to swallow. On a vacation in Tuscany, two families, one Danish, one Dutch, meet and become friends very fast. Months later, the free-spirited Dutch family extends an invitation to the more conservative Danish one for a holiday weekend getaway at their countryside home. However, it doesn't take long for that joy to turn slowly into problems when there are several misunderstandings, between the families. This is a fascinating and disturbing study of the human mind. It is really a psychological movie in which they are kind of pushing the boundaries of what society does to us, when we are basically forced to always be nice and always, please others, especially if they invite you somewhere. It is fantastic. This movie is fantastic. The acting is superb. I know Hollywood is remaking this. Imagine this movie came out in 2022 and the remake is supposed to come out in 2024, and I'm upset about it. But am I gonna watch it? Probably, because James McAvoy has been casted for it. But otherwise, I urge you to watch the original first, please. It is a movie that builds the tension from the very beginning, and it has you on a chokehold throughout the whole film. You don't even know what to do. You almost feel like you just want to, stand up and walk away because you don't want to keep watching. It's very intense and disturbing, but it was effective. I loved it. I love those type of movies where they just shock me and I'm like, what the hell did I just actually watch? So this is one of those. So if you can stomach it, if you're ready for it, please give it a chance, because it was one of my favorite movies of 2022. And these were my quiet horror recommendations, 5 books and 5 movies. Please let me know down below if you enjoyed it. I could do more videos like this with recommendations combining books and movies. I believe a lot of you are interested in both, so maybe you want to see some of these videos more often. I can definitely do that. Let me know in the comments down below, and let me know what is your favorite quiet horror book or movie. Thank you guys, as always, so much for watching, and I hope to see you all, as always, in our next coffee time. Bye!